Okay, imagine for a second you had a key, a single key that could unlock basically all of human knowledge. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? Well, for researchers, that's not a fantasy. It's what they need every single day. So what happens when that knowledge is stuck behind a lock? Today, we're diving into India's massive, ambitious plan to forge one master key for its entire research community.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is knowledge a luxury? For the scientists, the academics, the students out there trying to push the boundaries of what we all know, getting their hands on the latest research is, well, it's everything. But what if that access comes with a seriously hefty price tag?
And that's the tough reality for so many researchers all over the world. They run into what's called information poverty. It's a fancy term for a simple, frustrating problem. You can't get the information you need to do your job just because it costs too much. It's a huge, huge barrier to innovation and progress.
So let's talk about this problem with paywalls. Think about it. University libraries are pouring huge chunks of their budgets into journal subscriptions. But with so many different publishers, they often end up paying for the same exact resource over and over again, all while other critical databases stay locked away. It's a system that somehow creates both waste and scarcity at the same time.
Okay, so how in the world do you solve a problem that big? India's answer is pretty bold and, honestly, refreshingly simple. They figured if all these individual keys are way too expensive, why not just create one master key for everybody? And that is the whole idea behind the One Nation, One Subscription initiative.
So what exactly is this economies thing? Well, think of it like this. Instead of every single university having to fight its own expensive battle with publishers, the government just steps in. It negotiates one single, massive deal for the entire country. This gives everyone nationwide access and, you guessed it, tackles that crazy problem of duplicate spending head-on.
The strategy here is just brilliantly simple. First, centralize all the negotiations. Second, get rid of all that waste from everybody buying the same thing. And third, the big one, the ultimate goal, empower every single researcher in the country with seamless access to this gigantic digital library. It's a total game changer from the old way of doing things.
An ambitious plan is one thing, right? But the million-dollar question is, does it actually work in the real world? And for the very first time, thanks to a brand new study, we actually have some data, some real insight into how researchers are using this powerful new tool.
So everything we're about to look at comes from the very first user study of economies. It was done by researchers at Cantor University who went straight to the source. They surveyed research scholars to get a real on-the-ground view of how this thing is actually being used.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at how often they're using it. This isn't some tool that's just collecting dust. Almost a third of the scholars they talk to are using economies multiple times a day. That's a really strong sign that it's meeting a real constant need. And as they dug in, the study found this kind of curious little detail. Female scholars tended to use the platform more frequently every day, which suggests they're really weaving it into their continuous workflow. Male scholars, on the other hand, were more likely to log on a few times a week, maybe for more focused, concentrated sessions. The study doesn't really say why, but it's a fascinating peek into how different people are adapting to this new resource.
So what are they all looking at? Well, this chart spells it out perfectly. Elsevier's Science Direct is the clear frontrunner. I mean, look at that score, almost a 4 out of 5. Taylor and Francis and Springer Nature are also super popular. This really shows us which publishers hold the keys to the kingdom for these researchers.
Okay, so we know they're using it, and we know what they're using. But what about the real-world impact? How has this actually changed the day-to-day grind of being a researcher?
And the answer, when you really boil it all down, is incredibly simple: time. The single biggest impact of this whole thing is that it saves researchers their most valuable, non-renewable resource. In a world defined by deadlines and discoveries, this initiative is literally giving them back hours, days, maybe even weeks of their lives. And the numbers, wow, the numbers really back this up. When asked if economies enhanced ease of access, researchers gave it a stunning 4.08 out of 5. For thousands of scholars, that constant frustration of hitting a paywall is finally starting to fade away. And that ease of access translates directly into saving time. For time saved, the score is almost identical, 4.06 out of 5. This isn't just a small convenience, This is fundamentally changing the research process itself, making it so much faster and smoother.
This quote from the study really gets to the heart of it. Before economies, if your university didn't have a subscription,
you'd have to request an article from another library, and then wait and wait. That could take days. Onos is just cutting that delay way down.
And the benefits go way beyond just speed. Researchers said that Onos helped them stay current with trends, broaden the scope of their work, and even stumble upon resources they never would have found otherwise. It's even making it easier to do interdisciplinary research. So it's not just making research faster, it's making it better.
So let's zoom out for a second. What does all this really mean? This is about more than just one country or one program. This is about the future of how we share and build upon knowledge itself.
The big takeaway here is that this initiative really seems to be working as a great equalizer. It's leveling the playing field. It's making sure that a researcher at a smaller university has access to the same world-class resources as someone at a huge national institute. That right there is a massive step towards democratizing information.
But as promising as all these results are, we have to remember this is just the beginning. This study gives us a vital first look, but it's really just a small snapshot of a massive system.
Which leaves us with the final critical question. The challenge now is one of immense scale. How do you take this successful proof of concept and expand it to unleash the innovative potential of over 1 billion people? India has forged a potential master key. Now, the monumental task of unlocking every single door begins.